Hello and welcome to this video. In today's video, I must start with a bit of an apology. My last video with the piece entitled Summer Sun appears to have backfired, and I can only say sorry for getting rid of the sun to everybody in the UK. Well, I've come back today with a plan, because the piece for this video is entitled Stormy Skies. And I feel if the same thing happens this time, we should see an end to the stormy skies and welcome back the sunshine. So today's piece, entitled Stormy Skies, is going to focus on articulation. Articulation in music is the difference between textures, and we can think of legato, smooth, or staccato, spiky. And these two texture types can be mixed. We can have a little smoothness and a little spikiness. And of course, we can mix them in the hands. Smooth in one hand and spiky in the other, which is very hard to achieve physically. We have to practice these skills a lot in order to be able to do them consistently. And I hope today's exercise will help you to get a little further with your articulation practice. So before we go any further into having a look at the piece, I'll play it through so you can have a listen to it. Here's Stormy Skies. I hope you enjoyed the piece. So, as you can hear, it features a lot of staccato and a lot of legato and a lot of cross-articulation where the hands are having to try and achieve almost opposite effects in order to produce the full stormy effects of the skies. So let's have a look at the piece. As you can see from the key signature, this piece has one sharp, which means it's in the G major or E minor key area. And as we always say, this is an area of sound. Some things feel very E minor, and some things feel a little more G major. We've actually got here a use of something a little even more intriguing, which is the natural minor form for E minor. This means we have the scale of E minor, but we have no raised sevenths. As a lot of people will remember, the harmonic minor form will have the raised seventh, which in the case of a scale from E to E is the D being sharpened, giving us the more recognizable form of the minor, which will then include the major form of chord 5, which is B major. But if we don't raise the seventh, we can then have a transition which feels a little more interesting and old-fashioned, perhaps a little bit modal as well. Now, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of modes in this video. Perhaps we will do in the future, and we'll talk a bit more about how those sounds interact with the standard natural minor, which is the Aeolian mode, and how that might work in pieces in the future to produce a more haunting or interesting sound. Let's get back then to what we're doing today. We have the E minor and G major crossed over, as I mentioned in this piece, giving us a feeling at the beginning of starting in E minor with a middle line which feels a bit more major, and then coming back to almost a combination of the two towards the end. It's in 4/4, which is an easier time signature for us to talk about than some, but we still need to be very mindful about how we practice a piece, especially when we have 2 quavers in the left hand followed by the remaining 6 in the right. It would be very easy to mistime these, so it's wise to have a little count before you play to help yourself come in correctly. You might count 5, 6, 7, 8 to give yourself 4 quavers before you start, and once you know the notes, try and time this in. 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Making sure everything stays nice and even and we don't end up with a difference between the hands' quavers. Now then, as we move through the first line, let's just talk about these staccatos. In order to produce a consistent and spiky sound, we'll want to be using our wrist. This means that the flexible part here, joining your hand to your arm, you'll need to make sure remains flexible. All too often when people are playing, their wrists get very stiff and won't move. Because they're tense, they're looking at the music, trying to play something that's quite difficult. We'll need to practice our staccatos and have this wrist nice and flexible, but not floppy. Think about tension in the form of elasticity rather than stiffness or floppiness, and this might help. We need a strong, flexible wrist so that when we play, we can hear this type of sound. If you hear this, it could mean that you've got a slightly too tense wrist, or if you hear this, it's a similar thing, but the wrist could be flopping down, producing slightly lengthier but not as loud sounds. So in order to control this, you'll need to practice, monitor, and check your progress. However, a word of warning, whilst you are monitoring your wrist, it does tend to tense up a little bit. Naturally, whilst we study something and look at it, we do tense up whilst we focus on it. So it is a bit of a catch-22, and often experience will help you improve your staccatos as much as anything else, because you will be more relaxed whilst trying to produce them. So, as we go through the piece, enjoy practicing your staccatos. A smoother left hand and a spiky right hand. And then we reach some semiquavers in bar 2. Now these could be, again, something for people to have a focus on. If they're not sure of these rhythms, we can hear them being played. But if you want to be able to work them out and you haven't heard them before, you can do a little more subdivision or dividing your note values into something smaller. Each of our quavers divides into 2 semiquavers. So where we were going 1, 2, 3, 4, we're now going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And you can feel that subdivision is very accurate. Just like the difference between crotchets and quavers, quavers and semiquavers can be divided, and it will work out for you at a slower pace. Once you're happy with that rhythm, you can speed it up and transition to feeling the rhythm. And if all is well, it will fit in. Now at this point it's worth mentioning that having a teacher listen to your playing is and will probably always remain the most valuable way of gaining feedback about your rhythms and other techniques. If you would like to investigate how one-to-one online lessons will work for you, please feel free to check out my website at the address in the description. There I will be able to offer you one-to-one lessons. The timetable and availability is shown. As we move on through the piece then, some of these rhythms repeat and line 1 will find itself complete. On line 2 you'll see the instruction at the beginning, legato. This means smooth. Now I could have used a slur line to connect together some of the ideas in this piece to show you where the legato sections were. But if a whole line is slurred or legato, it's often best just to show the instruction written once, and hopefully the player will pick this up and play in a smooth style. Because there are a lot of tied notes as well, slurs can often get a little bit confused and they can disguise ties, and it looks a little bit messy. So I've chosen to write legato in the hopes you will play more smoothly like this. And this will help you then to be able to play through the piece in a slightly louder, more prominent way with these smooth sounds from the music. At the end of this line, there's also the little instruction to rit. Ritenuto or ritardando, both instructions abbreviated to rit, mean slowing down. The idea is to bring the piece to a gentle halt at the end of the line before continuing. And then you'll see on the next line the instruction a tempo, bringing us back to the original speed of the piece. The final line then, line 3, contains a mixture of all of the above. We'll be flitting back and forth from staccatos to smoothness. You may wish to introduce the pedal at points within this music to help to smoothen out or enhance the depth of sound here. Do be very careful not to muddy things up too much with too much pedal, and also we definitely don't want pedal in these staccato sections. So this takes us up to the end of the piece then, where you can practice once again your dramatic endings with this lovely E-7 chord and accompanying final melody. So there we have it, Stormy Skies. I do hope you enjoy playing through the piece this week, and may it lead to something less stormy in our skies. If you have enjoyed today's video and would like to show your appreciation, feel free to press the subscribe button below, give us a thumbs up, and press the bell icon if you'd like notifications about the release of future videos. Take care and enjoy your journey.